The internet is losing its mind over Trump's new Section 8 plan. Headlines are even screaming that Section 8 is going to be eliminated. Everyone's panicking, acting like the sky is falling. I own 153 Section 8 rentals, and I've actually read the proposal instead of just reacting to clickbait headlines. And today I'm breaking down what's actually happening with Section 8, why most people's fears overblown, and why these changes might actually make Section 8 a little bit more profitable than before. If you're worried about your Section 8 investments or thinking about getting started, this video right here is going to give you the facts without the political drama. Let's start with what Trump's administration is actually proposing. The main change is ultimately shifting Section 8 from a federal program to a state-run program. And states would actually receive block grants directly from the US government, meaning each state will actually manage their own rental assistance programs. And local housing authorities will still exist but report to the state rather than reporting to HUD. And just to be clear, this is not eliminating Section 8 whatsoever. The program will continue to exist and tenants are still going to be receiving rental assistance every single month. Landlords are still going to receive their payments. It's really just the structure changing, not necessarily the concept itself. And here's the key details of the proposal itself. States are going to get flexibility in how they run the program. Federal funding is still going to be provided, but it's going to be via block grants. And their main focus is on innovation and efficiency, with an emphasis on attracting private investments. Now, in terms of your timeline for this actually to get approved, well, this is a proposal, not a law, so it hasn't even been approved yet. And it would require congressional approval just to move forward with this. Additionally, implementation would probably take years just to go in effect. Also, all HUD contracts and all vouchers are still going to be honored during the transition. Another huge thing to mention is Trump actually proposed a partial cut for Section 8 back in 2018 for close to 14% of HUD's overall balance. But ultimately what happened is Congress completely pushed it out. They not only rejected the budget cut, but they actually increased funding back in 2018. There's been close to 4 budget cut proposals thus far with Section 8 and not a single one has gone approved. So at this point, the only way we could foresee the future is to look at the past with Section 8, and thus far there has not been a single cut. So in terms of timeline, well, this is still a proposal, not a law just yet. So in my opinion, none of this would even end up happening, but we'll still get into the nitty-gritty. Section 8 has been around since 1937 and it's pretty much survived everything thus far. And for a political reality check, there are millions of Section 8 households right now in the United States. And the reality is the need for affordable housing is not going to disappear anytime soon. Now, in terms of the economic factors that ensure that Section 8 is still going to stand, well, the housing affordability crisis is only getting worse in 2025. More people are ultimately qualifying for assistance every single year. And the private market is not going to be able to solve affordable housing alone. So government intervention is 100% necessary. In addition to that, state level politics matter too. The reality is states don't want homeless populations exploding, and local economies actually benefit from rental assistance programs. And without rental assistance programs, states would face massive issues. Now let's look at the historical precedent with programs that have shifted to the state. Medicaid is almost the exact same system where it has federal funding, but it's state operated. Food stamp pretty much utilizes the same exact model. So the reality is these programs didn't disappear, they ultimately just adapted. So the bottom line is rental assistance is not going away. If anything, it may just end up adapting. Now let's look at what would happen if the states ended up running Section 8 rather than the federal government. It would end up being a block grant funding model, which means the federal government would provide a fixed annual grant to every single state, and states would ultimately be responsible for how they want to attribute that funding, which could mean more flexibility in the program design and really more innovation as well. Now, the state level administration would be responsible for setting their own payment standards. They could modify the eligibility requirements. They might even streamline the bureaucracy, and the local housing authorities would report to the state agencies. Now, if this did happen, there would be some potential benefits to landlords. Potentially even faster decision making because there's no federal bureaucracy. Potentially more responsive local management systems. You might even get higher payment standards in some cities. And I would say a streamlined inspection and approval process additionally. Now, in terms of the potential challenges for this system, well, you would potentially have inconsistencies between states. I would say there's probably going to be a transition period confusion initially, and you would have to learn the new system state by by state. There's actually many states that run their own housing authorities currently. And you may have not known this, but state housing agencies actually exist in all 50 states currently. And states have actually been more innovative than the federal government itself. So consider this, local control generally means faster responses than the federal government. So the reality is, for investors, the fundamentals do not change whatsoever. The government still guarantees the rent, the tenants still need housing, properties still generate cash flow, and tax advantages still apply. And while everybody is panicking about Section 8, they're missing a game changer that Trump just approved. Trump just brought back 100% depreciation right now. Under the Biden administration, it was proposed to be 40% next year in terms of bonus depreciation. And it's now back to 100% for qualifying property improvements. So there's massive tax advantages for real estate investors. Now let's go over how bonus depreciation works with Section 8 specifically. You can essentially write off most of your improvements the first year instead of having to wait 27.5 years. And that creates massive paper losses that offsets your current income. And it's super powerful if you're gonna go ahead and mix it with the cost segregation. Now let's go over a live example of how this actually works. Imagine you bought a $100,000 Section 8 rental and there was $30,000 in qualifying improvements. If you were to depreciate this over 27.5 years, you would only be getting close to $1,000 in annual improvements. Now with the 100% bonus, you could do a $30,000 first year write-off, which makes Section 8 investing much more attractive. You have higher tax benefits, faster cost recovery, higher cash-on-cash returns, and more incentive for property improvements. Now, if you combine that with the Section 8 benefits, you're getting guaranteed government rents, long-term tenants, above-market rental rates, and now enhanced tax savings. The reality is the media is focused on the wrong story. The Section 8 proposed changes are only administrative, but the tax changes are immediate and they're substantial. So the smart investors are paying attention to both. Now, if approved, not all states are going to handle Section 8 the same way, which means landlord-friendly states are likely to improve the program for investors. Texas, Florida, Ohio, Indiana, Alabama, Louisiana. These states are already favoring property owners and landlords, so they're likely to improve the program. And they may even increase payment standards to attract landlords. But the reality is some states might reduce benefits. California, New York, Illinois, Washington. These states already have super tenant-friendly policies which do not like landlords whatsoever. And they might use state control to add more regulations, which could even reduce the payment standards. So in terms of your investment strategy implications, focus on landlord-friendly states. Avoid states with anti-landlord tendencies. Build relations with state-run housing authorities and monitor your state-level policy changes. Now, there are going to be opportunities for early movers. States are ultimately going to need experienced Section 8 landlords. If approved, there's opportunities to influence the new program design. There's potential for preferred vendor status, and there's first mover advantage in the new system. Now let's go over the realistic timeline if anything changes. The current status, well, as I said prior, this is just a proposal. Not law, not policy, just a budget outline. So it will require congressional approval, and the reality is it faces significant political opposition. So the implementation of this would probably take years. So if approved, which is highly unlikely, transition would be gradual. The current vouchers and next year's vouchers would 100% be honored. Existing Section 8 and HUD contracts would exist. It would probably be a phase-in period of several years, and there would be no immediate disruption to current vouchers and systems. Now, what would happen during the transition? Well, federal funding continues. The current housing authorities continue to operate, and new state systems develop in parallel. So it would be a gradual transfer of responsibilities. And for the investor implications, there's really no immediate action required. Current properties continue to operate completely normally, and you're still going to be getting a guaranteed check every single month. Now let's talk about the historical precedent for transitions. Well, the welfare reform in the 1990s took years to implement. The Medicaid expansion happened gradually. Housing programs actually have been modified slightly prior. So the reality is systems adapt, they don't just disappear. And as I said prior, there have been multiple Section 8 budget cut proposals, but not a single one has gone approved. And the same exact thing happened in 2018 where they proposed to change it to the state, but Congress actually rejected it and they actually increased the budget funding. Now let's address why people are freaking out unnecessarily. Well, it's a huge media incentive. Scary headlines ultimately end up getting much more clicks. Section 8 eliminated is going to get a lot more clicks than Section 8 restructured. And political bias ends up amplifying fear. So nuances don't necessarily drive engagement. Now in terms of the investor psychology, well, people fear change, even positive change. Loss aversion makes people overreact to potential negatives. And the truth is, most investors don't actually understand the government program. Now, once again, for the historical perspective, Section 8 has survived multiple administrations since 1937. It's been modified slightly multiple different times, but the core concept remains stable, and there is a ton of demand for affordable housing that continues to grow and grow. So once again, just to kind of mention this, housing crisis is not going away anytime soon. And the private market is not going to solve affordable housing, so government intervention is necessary, and there's way too many people that depend on this program. So for Section 8 investors specifically, your current properties are not affected. The government still needs private landlords. Demand for affordable housing is increasing, and tax benefits are actually improving. Now the reality is the headlines for Trump's Section 8 plan are designed to scare you, not inform you. Section 8 has survived 80 years through every political change imaginable. So it's not going to end up disappearing now, where you see the wealth gap ultimately spreading out more and more and more. And if you want to learn how to build wealth via Section 8 investing while others are sitting on the sidelines, check out the link in my description. I'll show you how to take advantage of these changes instead of being fearful like the rest of the 99% of people. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.